Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by...
At Villere's Florist, we deliver the magic of flowers 7 days a week to the North Shore and South Shore in the New Orleans area. Whether it's for birthday parties, baby celebrations, Villere's provides colorful floral displays for all. With a store full of fresh-cut flowers, exotic tropical flowers, orchids, roses, and even fruit baskets, our goal is to make your vision a reality. Villere's Florist, proudly serving Louisiana since 1969. Mr. Ed's Oyster Bar and Fish House has been shucking here since 1979. Located at 3117 21st Street in Metairie, Mr. Ed's Oyster Bar and Fish House offers raw, fried, and grilled oysters, as well as a range of Cajun and Creole dishes. Enjoy a dozen with a smile.
Good evening, New Orleans, and welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Over the next hour, we talk a lot about what's going on, the big weekend in sports, maybe the biggest weekend in South Louisiana sports in a long, long time. LSU taking on Alabama in Tiger Stadium on Saturday night. The Saints back here on Sunday afternoon kickoff against the Los Angeles Rams. And to break it down for us, Larry Holder of The Athletic. Larry, welcome to the show. As always, good to have you, my friend.
Appreciate it, and I figured if I'm going to make an appearance, I might as well wait and make the appearance when it's basically the epicenter of football is going to be staring at New Orleans and Southeast Louisiana this weekend.
Well, we're glad to have you. Love having you breaking it down. You have moved on to a new site. Let me say, first of all, I don't normally pay for sites, okay? I mean, I get so much content for free. This is one site that you need to pay for. You need to be on. The Athletic. Tell us about it.
Right, as you just alluded to, it is a subscription site, and yeah, I've been working there for 2 months after 6 years at the TimesPicUnitNOLA.com, and it's kind of a different philosophy. We charge for subscription, and yet we don't do advertising. That's the difference with the model that we're going with, and they started a couple of years ago based out of San Francisco, and they started with 5 markets. Now, 2 years later, there's expansion growing, and it's everywhere. We cover every professional team in the United States and Canada, and we also cover soccer across, across the ocean. And
Yeah.
we're everywhere.
Around the globe.
We're around the globe, literally, and it's a national website. And I'm a columnist. I'm writing specifically Saints and LSU, but we've got so much great content on there, and it's more about quantity. Well, it's less about quantity, more about quality. Mm-hmm. And I could just tell I'm doing things that I wasn't able to do in my entire journalism career, just because you're able to go more in depth. And I think it's showing. In the 2 months we've been in New Orleans, I've seen subscriptions go up and readership. And so I really feel like people have taken to The Athletic, and it's only going to grow. It's not like we're in a spot where we can't grow. I anticipate our local market of people at The Athletic eventually growing at some point.
Well, what I love about it, outside the fact that you're there, Will Guillory is there. He's covering the Pelicans for the site. It's the best writers in the country. I mean, literally, it's a who's who of again writers that you've read with other publications, other newspapers, with other TV stations, major networks, etc. They're all on The Athletic.
Right, and that's kind of the point of it. Just because of the way the media industry is, it's very fluid and temperamental. Mm-hmm. I would say, to be nice.
Yes.
In terms of that.
Dog eat dog.
Yes, and so what The Athletic wanted to do, because if they're going to charge subscriptions, they want to make sure the quality is top notch. Mm-hmm. And what they've done is they've recruited some of the best beat writers, columnists across the country, and you could just even see. I'll just point to the NFC South. Joe Person from the Charlotte Observer covers the Panthers now for The Athletic. Greg Allman, who was at the St. Petersburg Times, Tampa Bay Times now, He was covering the Bucks. Now he's with The Athletic. Jeff Schultz, longtime columnist for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. He's at The Athletic. So that's just in the NFC South.
Right.
And we're talking about, we cover tons of college football, college basketball, and you just look across all over the map. And it's one thing you could set up your app and follow your teams and follow the leagues and follow everything. And it's just clean reading. And I couldn't be prouder of the work that we're doing so far.
It really is great. And I like what you say. It costs you about as much for those that drink coffee, a cup of coffee, right?
Right. Well, if you're going to Starbucks for a coffee. But no, but there are also deals. I mean, it's basically, if you do a year subscription, it's like $5 a month. So happy hour prices.
Right, exactly.
I'll just put it to you this way. I don't want a cheap plug. It's 33% of a top shelf margarita at Superior, and I buy those off the pop. See, that's where I'm thinking.
That's where his head's at. That's where his head's at.
It's Thursday night. Come on, we're on a happy hour.
It used to be Que Sera back then. Now I'm going way back. Saints, wow, 6-1, beat Minnesota, exercised those demons 30-20. Let's talk Minnesota before we get into Los Angeles. Talk a little bit about this game.
Certainly one where before the game, you weren't finding too many people saying, "Oh, we gotta do this," and yet, I trust Sheldon Rankins, and that's why I talk to him all the time because he tells it like it is, and he admitted that this game was bigger than what others were saying, and he's like, "I don't care what everybody else says in the locker room. This matters more," and you could tell after the game, it certainly mattered more. Everyone you talked to, it mattered more. Even when Marcus Williams spoke after the game. We all know his story. It mattered more, and the fact that they've done that, now, honestly, you can move on past that, and he doesn't have to worry about that anymore.
Right.
They went into the Vikings building, beat them soundly, and so that's almost just like a check mark for them to move past it. Now, the game in and of itself, it could have taken a turn for the worse, but you got some timely turnovers, and another missed extra point, a little kind of a luck deal there, but you see these good things happen to good teams. Right. A lot of times you create your luck, and a lot of times when you're good, the luck kind of follows you. So do I think the Saints have their issues? There's no doubt about it. They have some issues. And yet they're still one of maybe 2 or 3 teams that you could point to and say they're actually living up to expectations. I would probably just point to New England. I still think they're there. The Rams, I didn't think the Chiefs would be this good. But if you just say 3 of those teams, they're the top 3 teams that are actually living up to the expectations.
You know, what's interesting is, again, how they won on Sunday. We'll get into the offense in a moment. Defensively, Eli Apple, with his first game, I'd like to first of all ask you, what did you think about his performance as a Saint?
I think it was up and down. You see he led the team in tackles. Okay, that's nice, but you don't ever want a corner leading the team in tackles. A lot of the times that means they're throwing at you. So, and that's to be expected just because Marshawn Lattimore's on the other side of the field. But he was in the facility for 4 days. It's going to take him a little while just to learn the ins and outs of what they're doing, zones and schemes and that sort of thing. Man-to-man, you could figure out man-to-man. But, look, there's certainly a schematic process you got to learn within Dennis Allen's defense. And so I'm thinking they're going to have to continue to do that. But the acquisition in and of itself, they had to make a move.
Right, no doubt.
We know that Patrick Peterson was on their radar. Right. If they had the draft ammo, they would have gone all in and got him. But they don't have the draft ammo. And I'm sure Arizona was asking for a king's ransom, which rightfully they should have.
Absolutely.
So with Eli Apple, do I think he can develop? Sure. Do I think he's got to be far more comfortable in this locker room? 1,000,000%. He's on a winning team. He's got good coaches, and he's got friends, like real friends, not just, I'm thrown into New York and all of a sudden all hell breaks loose. He's got legitimate friends from all the Ohio State connections. So I can see this being a positive moving forward. That said, they're going to pick on him. They're going to pick on him. I know we're going to talk about P.J. Williams.
Yes.
They're going to pick on him even though he was the NFC Defensive Player of the Week.
Right.
He still got picked on a good bit. And even though with Eli Apple, he had pass interference. He actually did a smart play by basically tripping Stephon Diggs. In that situation, and he even got high-fived by his teammates after the play, knowing, all right, there was this collision. That's the only thing you could do, and you lived to play another down.
Actually, it was a smart play.
It was a smart play.
Based on the rules this year, it was a smart play.
No doubt.
Okay?
No
Don't
doubt.
get beat for the touchdown. Live to play another day.
Oh, yeah,
I thought it was really a smart play on his part, and that showed me, again, a little bit of football IQ. the question is, again, can he leave the drama in New York? That's been the issue. For him, I think it's been more off-the-field issues than on-the-field issues, which kind of bled into the locker room, from his father, the situation with his mom getting involved and everything. Can he leave that, on the East Coast and come here to New Orleans and concentrate on football, because they need him to be a shutdown corner on the opposite side of Marshawn Lattimore.
There's no doubt about that. And you could point to him as being a problem in New York, but New York has a ton of problems.
Oh, yes.
So getting him out of that culture, look, they're going to, it's not like Pat Shurmur's up there doing a great job right now either. And there's drama everywhere you turn up in New York. He was a small piece of the puzzle.
But nobody gives away the 10th pick in the draft, okay, unless you feel that, this is not the place for this guy. We would be a better locker room if he's not here.
You're not trading him for a fourth-round pick unless you feel like he's damaged goods in some way, physically, mentally, psychologically, whatever. So, but if the Saints had to kind of go and get what they could afford, that's what they have, and they're kind of gambling. All right, well, let's see if this guy can stick. Because if he can stick, you've got him. You can have a good
him on the
tandem, right?
But not just that; they liked him coming out of Ohio State. I can remember reading about him coming out of Ohio State. There was a lot of talk that was going to be their pick.
And he went before.
Yes.
They even drafted. They drafted Sheldon Rankins, which I'm sure they're pretty pleased with, especially now. But look, and that's one other thing that they were familiar with him. And even Sean Payton says, he's like, I haven't been in New York in, who knows, since 2000, basically, 2001, 2002, whenever he got fired by Jim Fossil. And he says, I don't know how they run their organization, but he knows how they run theirs. And it's worth the gamble, and they needed to address that position.
Yes.
So, and they did.
You mentioned him, P.J. Williams, again, is going to continue to get picked on. I always thought the slot position was his best position in terms of coverage. He's going to get challenged, especially now. But again, I guess the guts, the hanging in there, the truly, again, what a quarterback does, forget the last play, coming back, the interception, forced fumble, as you mentioned, Defensive Player of the Week in the NFC. What a turnaround for him. But he's got to get better consistently, for the Saints. Or again, that's going to be a problem area throughout the rest of the season.
I'm going to be honest. I don't think he's going to get better.
Wow.
We're 4 years into the P.J. Williams experience. I could tell you, when I did roster projections throughout the offseason and through training camp, I left him off. He was gone. I still don't know why he's even on the team. I'll be really frank. You draft 2 guys. You had Arthur Millette. You had all these things. You signed Patrick Robinson. I have no idea why he was even on the team.
Jameson's playing for the Texans.
Right, and I still really don't know why. Well, now I do know why, just because Robinson gets hurt. They're rolling the dice. Arthur Millette plucked off waivers right after that happened, and so you're in a spot where you're stuck with him. And Ken Crawley is not a nickel corner. He's not good enough to do that. And so you are where you are. You basically better hope and try to conceal him somehow. And that comes with a pass rush and mixing some things up. But I don't think he's going to get better. This is the last year of his contract. I don't think he would be back.
Right.
But you're just going to have to deal with what he is and try to hope that if he gives up a mistake, that your offense can come back and put points on the board.
Yeah, no doubt about it. You mentioned the defensive line. Let's start with Marcus Davenport first. Seems to be coming on, playing well, and then, of course, we find out about the toe injury. He said that he thinks he might be able to play Sunday. He's walking in a boot right now.
He is completely lying.
Yes.
I've seen him in a boot. He's not playing Sunday. He's not going to play next Sunday. They're reporting, no. He was just being coy and trying to be kind of fun and cheeky because I was standing right next to him.
So you were there?
Yeah, so no, he's not going to play.
So it is a severe injury.
Well, severe enough
that he's out for a month.
Right, and he says he doesn't think it'll be surgery or anything, but he's like, we're trying to still figure out what to do with it, but he's not going to be able to play. I mean, so that's something, at least, though, with this, that you have some depth at defensive end. Usually they would be in really bad shape. And so you have Alex Okafor, you have Trey Hendrickson, who people have been asking me, why isn't he playing? But they've only been going with 3 defensive ends, and he's the 4th guy. I mean, he's not as good as Davenport.
He showed flashes last year.
Right, so you're at least okay there. And now you're going to have to get creative and get some work done on the blitzes and this and that, which you always try to do. But Davenport, you're right, coming on, You can see the improvement. Whenever he messes up, like say a week later, he doesn't make the same mistake. And that's a blow. But look, we've seen other teams have to deal with injuries. No one's going to feel sorry for you. But like I said, I at least feel like the Saints can absorb this injury. It's like they can't absorb Patrick Robinson.
Right.
They can at least absorb this one.
Talk about the rest of the defensive line. Let's start on the interior defensive line. The run is going to be tested against the St. Louis Rams this week with Gurley. We'll get into that in a few minutes. But Stallworth looks like he's been playing well. Davidson. And, we've been waiting on it. Rankins look like he's kind of coming into his own right now.
Yeah, I think for sure Sheldon's coming into his own. And he was frustrated with his play last year and was really determined to bounce back. And he's a real accountable guy. Like I said, he tells it like it is. And sometimes, a lot of times, even last year, I thought he was too hard on himself. He was so accountable. But you got to give it to him, and he's worked. And you could see third year he's starting to really get it. And that's what you wanted in your first-round pick. I do think Stallworth is a nice surprise. He's deserving and earning playing time, kind of bumping Tyler Davison out. David Onyemata, he's been okay. I feel like sometimes he just does knucklehead things and gets...
Agreed.
So, there was a lot of hope for him. I'm still waiting to see some more from him. But I also do feel like the run defense and the numbers, while they're pretty good against it, I do feel like it's a little deceiving because people can throw on you.
Right.
Guess what's going to happen when your pass defense is so low in the league? They're going to pick on that, and that's what people are going to do. Now, when you got Todd Gurley, you're going to try to beat you.
Yes.
And so I'm curious to see if the Saints' run defense is for real or if things can pop off and Todd Gurley could be Todd Gurley.
I totally agree with you. I think this is the week we find out if the defense, the run defense is for real. We talked about it with Saquon Barkley. This is a different guy when you talk about Todd Gurley. The physical aspect, his speed, his ability to catch the ball at the backfield, all things that Barkley can do. But to me, Gurley's the best running back in the NFL right now.
That is no doubt. Not right now. I'd just say period.
Right.
I'd say that we could keep going, and he's the best back in the NFL, which has made the Rams' offense so explosive.
No doubt.
And, you could see that with the Saints. When you've got a guy like Kamara and you can throw in Ingram and you add them together, Gurley's that in one.
Right.
So I think that's certainly something that there's a reason why they're undefeated. That's part of it.
The bad thing about a guy like Davenport going out and Okafor not quite back from the injury now is Cam Jordan is going to continue to see double and triple teams. It's amazing what he's been able to do this season, considering all the obstacles he's had to overcome to get to the quarterback. And, of course, we already know he's stout against the run.
That was going to happen anyway. Once he became all-pro Cam Jordan, the game was going to change for him. But what you saw against Minnesota is that you saw Sheldon Rankins winning a bunch of battles. They had to turn the double teams over to him, and so that left Cam open. That's what you need.
Yes.
I'm curious to see if Okafor can elevate his play. I do think he's healthy, and he says he feels good, but you're not seeing him play as many snaps as he did last year when he was playing pretty well. So if you increase snaps, maybe you can get some more production out of him. Like I said, Hendrickson's going to get back there and play. But the double teams were going to come for Cam Jordan, even some triple teams, which is kind of amazing.
Right. And we've seen that.
Yes.
We've seen that this year. Talk about the linebacking core. They were a little bit shaky early. A lot of people blamed it on the fact that they were trying to make these linebackers interchangeable. Demario Davis looks like he's settled in. Klein has played well there was only really 1 week that I saw that he really didn't play well. Anzalone, kind of go through the linebacking position. Do you like where they're at right now?
Yeah, I think their group is probably as
it's solid, right?
I would want to say solid as we've seen in past years.
Right.
And that's all you're really going to ask for with that. And I do think Demario Davis, you're seeing why they went out and spent some money on him. So he's definitely their best linebacker. I have liked what I've seen, though, from Anzalone. And do I think they're going to still mix and match? Yeah, I do think that because I don't think everyone's perfect. And you're still even starting to see Manti Te'o after the injury. He plays a little bit. I think of those four, he's number 4. But you at least see Davis is on the field. He can get things done. And I think Anzalone, you're seeing a little bit more snaps from him because I do think he's starting to kind of play a little bit better.
On the back end, the thing that surprises me the most is the safety position right now. Coleman was brought in. You thought he would be immediately a major contributor. It's been kind of, to me, Von Bell's been the better safety out there, especially, again, when you put him in the box. And Marcus Williams is not the same player he was last year, although, again, he looks like he's kind of getting much better week to week. But you expect him to be much more of a guy that can get turnovers for you. He has been a guy that has been, can be that last line of defense in terms of making that tackle. But even then, sometimes he's out of position. He hasn't made the progress, in my opinion, that I thought he would make from year 1 to year 2.
Yeah, and a lot of people are wondering if the miracle is lingering.
That can't be, right?
I don't think
so.
I don't think that has anything to do with it. I really don't.
I think other teams have film on him. They saw what he's about, and again, they're going to try to exploit that.
Right, and he's got to figure it out for himself,
no doubt.
And through coaching as well. But it's funny, every year it seems like they don't want to play Von Bell, and then they try to make a move, and then, we're kind of forced. We got to play Von Bell.
But he's played well.
Yeah, I think they're starting to learn what he can do and what he can't do, and I think that was part of the problem. At times, you're trying to put him at the slot corner and having to defend a guy in pass coverage. You don't want to do that. Now, at times he's had to do that, like a tight end or a running back. That's fine. Don't put him on a receiver. Don't. Like the Kenny Vaccaro experiment when he was doing that, that didn't work.
No, it didn't.
So don't try it again with Von Bell. That's not his forte. And so I think they're starting to learn how to play him. Like Kurt Coleman just kind of is who he is. They paid too much for him.
Absolutely.
You're not going to get the production, so it's going to want to be one of those kind of, they shouldn't have done that, and yet they made some other moves. So you kind of give them a little pass because they've been so smart lately with all these.
I wonder if that was more about leadership. Okay,
I think so.
All right, and because again you're losing Vaccaro, you don't bring Bush back, and having a veteran back there with so many young players. I mean, we saw Marshawn Lattimore early in the season. He wasn't the same player. It's almost like he just took for granted he was going to come out and was going to be a superstar. And again, that's not how the NFL works. He's gotten better week to week. I think he's pretty much back to where he was last year. But early, he was not the same player.
Well, and you're talking, say, leadership back there. Kurt Coleman is way ahead of Kenny Vaccaro in that category. Kurt Coleman is, he's not a guy who, Vaccaro was a guy who would say, I've played with a broken neck for 5 years of my career. No, Kurt Coleman, I think he's back there more to be the cerebral guy, certainly experienced guy. But the skills, are they there? No, they're probably not there as much as you used to. But you're at least back there. He knows what's going on. And as far as maybe in the film room and on the practice field. So I think it's more about that.
Larry, if this defense is not a turnover machine like we saw in 2009 with Greg Williams, 39 turnovers, is this a championship defense? Is this a defense that can win a Super Bowl in your mind?
I don't think it's a championship defense, but can they go far with it? I think it's possible. I think they are capable of beating anybody in the league. And I'm not giving any.
Is that because of the offense or because of the defense?
I think it's because of the offense.
Right.
And even though at times we've seen the offense be diverse, now do you need a championship level defense? I don't think you have to have that. You don't need to have a Ravens defense when they won.
But do you have to have something you can hang your hat on that you maybe can stop the run or stop the pass? Or in 2009, you were able to create so many turnovers, you could mask the deficiencies that you had on the defensive side of the ball.
I think it's a different league than it was back then. I mean, this is 10 years ago we're talking when they created all these turnovers.
Right.
Now I feel like the rules have changed. It's so catered to offense that the offense has more of an advantage than ever. So it's harder to play defense now than it was, say, in 2009.
I would agree with that.
So I don't think you need to have this bona fide, awesome, incredible defense. They just need to be okay. And if your offense is that good, which I think the Saints are, I think they can coat that. Now, you're going to have some timely turnovers against good teams like the Vikings. Without those, they don't win.
Right.
So you're going to need that against the Rams, too. And if you happen to play the Chiefs or the Patriots somewhere down in Super Bowl land, you're going to need some of that too. But I don't think they need to be a championship stout stud defense to win it.
You just mentioned two teams that are not playing good defense right now, the Patriots and the Chiefs.
Case in point.
Right.
They're putting up points. It's not like they're awesome on defense.
Yeah, no doubt about it. On offense, it's amazing how Peyton has kind of changed this offense on the fly, and a lot of it has to do, honestly, with Taysom Hill. It's amazing to me now, much like he did with Reggie Bush when he brought him in 2006 and was able to dictate to a defense how they were going to have to play the Saints when Bush was on the field. It's almost like he's doing that now with Taysom Hill, but in a different way.
And Taysom gives you a different dynamic that the Saints have never had, this read option. And then, oh, by the way, you probably want to remember that he can throw the ball. And he, of course, left Michael Thomas wide open. They were fortunate because that probably wasn't a catch.
I don't think it was.
But P.I., oh, well, it would have been that way anyway. So it wouldn't have mattered. You would have just taken stats away from Taysom Hill.
Right.
But I do think that Sean Payton sees this dynamic. Let's be creative with it. And I do think, though, that the Vikings caught up with it because anytime he kept it, he didn't go anywhere.
Right.
So I'm curious to see what variation, maybe if they scale back a little bit, especially against a defensive front like the Rams. Curious to see what they do there. But it gives you a lot of options. And with Taysom, I wrote about him a few weeks ago. I think he's the most unique NFL player. I'm not going to say we've ever seen, but certainly in the game right now. And people like to harken back to Tim Tebow. I said he's better than Tebow in that whole role. And so it's something that Sean Payton sees the new toy, and he wants to play. And yet, if you pay too much attention to him, someone else can beat you.
Did you see it coming in camp? Because I'm going to be honest with you. On this show, my radio show, I talked, well, you're not taking the ball out of the Hall of Famers' hands. Are you kidding me? With Taysom Hill, come on. It's a novelty, it'll wear off, etc. No, it's not going to wear off. It's actually become a weapon. Did you see this?
We all kind of discussed, why don't they put him at tight end? They have him at H-back. Why don't they do this with him? Just because he's got this athletic ability. They're already doing it with special teams.
Every week it's something different.
And every week well, I don't know how much further you can go.
Right. You might have. I don't want to see Breeze catching a pass out there and getting hit, but you never know what'll happen.
I don't think Sean Payton. I think Sean Payton would end it if he threw a pass to Drew Brees, even though Drew wants it.
Right.
No, sir.
Yes.
And so I think though that you knew he had it in him, but you didn't almost think that. Sean Payton's got guts, but. I don't think anyone figured it would go this far. I don't think Taysom thought that. Drew thought that. And actually, I forget which game it was. After the Ravens game, I think Sean Payton said he credited Drew Brees with being able to handle the diversity of the game plan because we know Drew can handle anything.
Yes.
But this is totally different, interchanging packages, this, that, and the other. He's not playing quarterback sometimes. And that Drew has been able to handle it and get the offense together to do this. Because it's one thing to have Taysom just out there doing it, but it's another to have your quarterback being able to orchestrate all of this, and it's something he's not accustomed to.
You're taking a little pressure off of Kamara with Hill in the game, and, of course, it's also taking some carries away from Mark Ingram as well. When you're in that situation, it allows Payton to be a little more aggressive. I like the aggressive approach he has this year. Third down is really non-consequential because we're going for it on fourth. It's refreshing to see that, again, he seems to be reinvigorated.
Well, he knows how good this team is.
It is.
And he knows he's got some things up his sleeve. And I just think the Baltimore game is where they know they were going against the number one defense. We're going to put our stamp on this and be like, I dare you to stop us, and we're going to keep going. And I don't think they felt all that threatened by the Ravens' offense. But in the Vikings game, the approach was a little more measured. It wasn't just, let's try to go down the field. They kind of just did what they had to do. Now, also turnovers, that helped. When you watch on Lattimore and the yardage looks kind of skewed. But I think they can adapt with whether it's aggressive or a little more measured. I think they feel comfortable doing anything that they want to do.
They seem to have a different dynamic in the backfield now with Taysom Hill along with Kamara and Ingram, who are proven. Michael Thomas, one of the best wide receivers in the game. Obviously, Breeze, if not the GOAT, one of the best of all time at the quarterback position. The line, now when intact, is one of the best in the NFL. Where's the weakness on this offense?
The weakness on the offense. I'd say the number 2 receiver. I'm curious to see who can develop Ted Ginn. I would be surprised if we ever saw him in a Saints uniform.
I was going to ask if you thought he would come back this year.
I don't know if after this. I think they could see Traquan Smith being a number 2. You'd have Cam Meredith for one more year. Maybe they draft another wide receiver or do something because they're going to need some depth there. And so I think that number 2 wide receiver spot, I'm fine with where they are at tight end. I don't think that's going to be this major weapon there. I do think, though, that if someone can wipe out, say, Michael Thomas. You give a lockdown corner, it can slow him down. I do think the other receivers, that's a problem. But you can counteract that using Kamara and using some other things. And so that's one thing that they can eliminate. Now, knock on every piece of wood or in the city. If Michael Thomas goes down, you're in trouble.
Oh, big trouble.
You're in big trouble. So it's there's no one even close to him on this team.
We'd like the audience to knock on wood right now.
All of it, everywhere.
Everywhere. Just start tapping on wood, please. Special teams. I was a little bit. I had a little bit of issue with Peyton. Not keeping Jamerson, maybe keeping a Hardy, but he's focused over the last couple years on making sure that he brings players in that their main role is going to be special teams, and I think it's paying off. You look at the coverage teams; they are good on punt and kickoffs, and then of course now you have a clutch guy in Lutz, and we know Morstead. Might go down as the greatest punter in Saints history. Oh,
I think he will be the greatest punter in Saints history. And also one thing is that you're seeing a lot of touchbacks, so you're not having to deal with the kickoff returns. Yes. And punt returns, no, Justin Hardy, you need someone like him.
Absolutely.
Him, let's say a Chris Banjo, some guys like that. And
multiple guys like that on this team
sure,
now, okay?
Sure.
Especially with the rule changes, but I mean, it was almost, when you look at a final roster, you put it together, you're not thinking they're going to have, 3 or 4 guys just for special teams. That's what they're savvy at. And that's what we're going to go with, but it has worked out.
Well, also, let's think about this. Craig Robertson, that's what he's doing now.
Yes.
And so it's different than having to play him in so many snaps, and he kind of been taken away off the special teams. And people always ask, where's Craig Robertson? Well, he's the 5th linebacker. and
because he's a solid linebacker.
Right. But, I feel like you can get more out of with the weak side linebackers with either Demario Davis and Alex Anzalone. So feel good that he's playing special teams because he's going to be full gear for that. But no, I think certainly also they've certainly said, okay, now that especially that Ingram is back and Kamara is not playing as much, he's still playing a lot, but put him out there in punt returner. And I think you saw a nice return he had against Minnesota. You put him back there, and that gets a punter shaky. That gets some special teams shaky. So I think putting him back there is an asset.
It's Reggie Bush all over again.
Right.
No doubt about it. All right. Here's the big question. How far can this team go?
I think they could win it all, if you want me to be real honest.
Yeah, honest.
I think they can win it all. Am I saying they're going to win it all? No, but I think they can beat anybody in the NFL. I think they're capable of that. And like I said, it's going to be points. I'm not too worried about, all right, if their defense is shaky a week and they lose, okay. They can figure it out because, like I told you, and you brought it up, when I mentioned the Patriots and I mentioned the Chiefs, they're not these defensive juggernauts at all anymore. And you look at in the NFC, do I think the Rams have a good defensive front? Yes. Do I think their secondary is susceptible? Absolutely. Marcus Peters, you can throw on him. Aqib Talib's not back there. He's hurt. So can they be scored upon? I think absolutely. And you look at the rest of just the landscape, I can't point to 5 teams that are better than the Saints right now in the entire NFL. I could barely point to 3.
Right.
And you could argue maybe the Chiefs, the Patriots, and the Rams may be the only better teams than the Saints. And I could argue, well, I'd put them in the dome against the Saints or anywhere. And the Saints, I think it'd be a toss-up game. Figure it out.
How do the Saints beat the Rams on Sunday?
I think they certainly have to protect Drew Brees. They have to run the ball, too. It's all going to come down to the Saints' O-line against that D-line. I know they just picked up Dante Fowler in a trade, but, again, that's one of those, you don't trade the 3rd overall pick if something's wrong,
right.
If it's not all right. So that's why they just went and got him. And the Rams were desperate. They didn't have a good edge rush. So I think it's going to come down to, can they slow down Aaron Donald? And Ndamukong Suh's still not the player he used to be. So he's not the bigger threat. But they just got to keep them on their toes. I would expect them to use the hell out of the screen game to counteract that sort of stuff. And take some shots down the field because I feel like I just said, you could throw on Marcus Peters. You can throw on that secondary.
What about Gurley?
That is the X factor that I don't know if the Saints' run defense is good enough to stop him. Because you could stop him, and then all of a sudden, boom, he's gone. So I think you could easily point to him as the X factor every week. But I think he's the X factor because you can even everything out with all the others. But also, might as well say, all right, Alvin Kamara's the X factor because
True.
he's like Todd Gurley. He
Right.
can do all these other things.
Crowd will be big. We're going to talk about Tigers when we come back from our break, but much like what's going to happen in Saturday night in Tiger Stadium, Sunday in the Dome, the crowd will be a factor. Again, to get Goff is you put pressure on him. He's not the same quarterback. The ability to be able to get the signals out there. Again, the Dome crowd can affect this game, and I fully expect them to be ready, full-throated and ready to go.
He's never played in an environment like this, and Sean McVay has not coached in an environment like this, and so it's going to be rocking. There's no question about it. That's why you're not asking me for a prediction right now, but I think the Saints are going to win.
Right.
I think if the Rams are going to lose a game this year, it would be this one, and I think it sets up that the Saints can win this game.
And honestly, I don't want to say it's a must-win, but it is, because if you are truly going to get home field advantage, you've got to beat this team. You cannot fall behind the Rams and have a situation, because then everything will go through Los Angeles. You win this Sunday, for really, at least if you continue to play the way you are, everything will come through New Orleans, and that's the recipe for a Saints to win a Super Bowl.
Well, if the Saints finish as the 2 seed,
right?
Saints fans could go take over that Coliseum like the Packers fans did.
And they did, didn't they?
They did. So
yes.
Just because it might be outdoors and 70 degrees.
Well, this team is now built to travel. I will say that
Yes.
about the Saints team. They are now built to travel where maybe at one time they weren't. This team can travel now.
Absolutely. That's why I think they can win it all. I think they're going to win Sunday, and they're one of the better teams we've seen in a while in New Orleans.
Larry Holder of The Athletic is our guest tonight. I'm your host, Eric Asher. When we come back, we talk LSU, Alabama. Stick around.
Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration has been family-owned and operated since 1989. Burkhart has energy-efficient solutions and offers brands such as Mitsubishi ductless AC units and Amana, the only manufacturer with a lifetime unit replacement warranty. Burkhart's offers maintenance bundle packages that include servicing your AC, generator, and tankless water heater. For more information on the services Burkhart's provides, visit acpromise.com. Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration, providing comfort for life.
Located at 3701 Iberville Street in Mid-City is Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Open 7 days a week, Katie's offers daily specials for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Serving New Orleans cuisine such as fried shrimp platters, grilled redfish, and a fully stocked bar. And don't forget about our expanded event seating and local entertainment. Featured on the Best of Food Network's diners, drive-ins, and dives, Katie's Restaurant and Bar.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Tonight, Larry Holder of The Athletic is going to join us. We'll open up the phones about 10 minutes before the end of the program. The number 3 ranked Tigers, highest one-loss team in the nation, taking on the number 1 team in the nation, Alabama. First question I want to ask, but we kind of get into it, the Devin White factor. How much do you think it hurts the Tigers not having him? How much of an impact do you think it will help them in terms of getting them fired up when he comes back after halftime? How do you think this is going to play out without having Devin White for the first half?
All right. Well, I wrote about this last week at The Athletic, and I called the SEC the sense-escaping conference. And I don't think it matters that they're playing Alabama. I just think overall the call was bad, yes. The replay was bad, there's no appeal, that's even worse. It's the trifecta. It's just, I think it's coincidence that Alabama was next. Mm-hmm. I think it was just a garbage call. And when they were overturned, like when they went to the review, it happened so fast, I said, oh, well, they're going to overturn
right.
this.
That's what I thought.
And I was floored that that happened.
Me too.
So, and then there's, of course, the Alabama factor. I can't tell you how many conspiracy theories I've heard. It's like tinfoil everywhere.
Everywhere.
I didn't buy. I mean, James Carville, I think he got mesmerized by debating Frank the Tank and Old School, and he's lost his mind. Come on, man. Right. But I do think that it's a bad look when this happens because, and I know there's a former SEC official who said that shouldn't have been even a penalty. No. And the one they're talking about when the Alabama guy in Tennessee, he said that shouldn't have been a penalty either, and that one wasn't. But everyone's mixing and matching. Now, as far as no Devin White, you take one of the best players in college football off the field, it's a factor.
It's a factor, no doubt.
Yet, even if he's on the field for the whole game, I'm not convinced that oh man, he is such this game changer that it would change the entire scope of the game. I'm not going that far either. He could play the whole game and LSU could still lose. So even though it's a bad call and the whole situation's bad, I'm not sure that it's this total game changer, to be honest with you. And if he comes back in the second half and it's close, say if it's like a 3-point game at half or even a 7-point game at half, I think then he could basically have his Willis Reed moment, come out even though he's not hurt.
Right.
And then you have this place gets really amped up and it could maybe a snowball. But in and of itself, LSU might not even matter if he would have played the whole game.
Yeah, I think it was Chris Gordy on 1280 mentioned this morning, have Devin White come out of the tunnel by himself at halftime. In other words, when the team comes out, he comes out first by himself so everybody can see him and get the stadium amped up. If it's close, the stadium will be amped up, no doubt. Let's break Alabama down. The big thing about Alabama is they have destroyed everybody. Tua's not played a fourth quarter. For the most part, they've shut it down at halftime. But yet the schedule has been cupcake land. How much do you think that is a factor in this game, the fact that Alabama's not been challenged all season long?
I think that's certainly a factor. And you need to be battle-tested. And it seems like the teams they were playing, they weren't battle-tested. At the beginning of the schedule, maybe like 2 years ago, Alabama and Louisville looked like a bit of a good game. But no, it's not the same program anymore. And it's almost just like when LSU played BYU, the BYU wasn't that good anymore either. So, but you look at it and you have to think, okay, LSU is by far their toughest opponent. Usually that's the way it is anyway.
Right.
Whether if LSU's kind of 7-2,
they always rise up.
Right, and this game is always a battle anyway. But I think that certainly comes down to, and I keep saying I'm not sure LSU would win anyway, even if they had Devin White. I think LSU is fully capable of winning this game. And that's not because I don't think Alabama's that good. I just think LSU could rise up to the occasion and play well enough to beat them, and they had not seen a team. I think Nick Saban, when he's been speaking all year, he always likes to downplay everything.
Yes.
But I think this year, he's saying it because he means it. He's like, I don't know how good we actually are. And
because they have not been tested.
Exactly. And so I think this is going to be a massive test for him. We all know it's going to be a massive test for LSU. But I think part of it, this whole thing is that, okay, Tua's great, and he's leading the Heisman Trophy campaign. And if the award came out today, it would be easy to give it to him.
Hand it to him.
And yet, let's see him in an environment like this. He's never played in this kind of environment.
No.
Nothing as fierce as this.
And against this type of defensive backfield as well. I've watched a lot of Alabama games this year. Those receivers, Irv Smith at tight end, they run free. And again, when you don't have a guy within 3, 4, 5, sometimes 10 yards of you, easy to look up and catch that pass and roll in for a touchdown. I think you will see the stickiness of the defensive backs with LSU, that these receivers are going to have to work to get open, something they haven't done all season long.
Well, especially with Greedy. You know Greedy's greedy. I mean, he's going to be a top 10 pick easy.
Sure.
And rightfully
Fulton's coming
so.
on.
Christian Fulton, I think someone asked me, we had a chat today on The Athletic.
Yes, you did.
And someone asked me a guy that's not a star who needs to play well. I said, Jacob Phillips, for one, just because Devin White's going to be out for the first half. And then I said Christian Fulton because, we've seen him get better. It was a little bit of a struggle right off the bat because he's like, oh, my God, I'm playing.
Yeah, but he hadn't played 2 years.
Right, exactly. Oh, my God, I'm actually playing. So, but people are going to throw at him, but he's certainly improving. There's no doubt. So, I feel like you mentioned tight ends running free. I don't think Grant Delpit's going to let that happen. Right. Jacob Phillips, if he's got to go out and defend one, he can certainly do that too. So it comes down to this defense that they're facing against Alabama's offense. Tua has not played in any of this, and he came into a crazy situation in a national championship game, but he's never been in an environment against a team in this scenario like this. I mean, what's he played? 9 games so far, 10 games, something like that. Yeah. So he hasn't even played a full season yet. So he's not a cyborg. Like, I think he's human, and if LSU can do things the right way, you can maybe make him a little bit more human.
The loss of Chasson has not been replaced. They've tried all season long. Obviously, losing Devin White's also going to hurt him because they've used him more as a rusher at times. Matchup between the Alabama offensive line and the LSU defensive line. Talk about it.
I just think LSU's defensive line, they kind of just are what they are. I don't think they're ever going to be a dominant defensive line. I know Rashard Lawrence and Braden Fajoko. Look, they're two guys who kind of are the anchors of that thing, but you're going to have to generate pass rush by blitzing and being creative. And
can they afford to do that with, again?
I think they can with their secondary.
Right.
I think if there's a team that can afford to do that and take some risks,
go one-on-one.
I think it's this team. I think LSU can do that. And especially when one side of the field is kind of locked down.
Yes.
That's a big key. And you got Delpit and John Battle kind of floating out there.
Always shade them.
I think they can afford to do that. But, of course, Tua, he's one of the most accurate college quarterbacks I've seen in a long time.
No, he is, and can also throw on the run as well.
Absolutely. And he can move.
And he can move, right. There's no doubt. He can create time.
Yeah, so I do think, though, that LSU, the pass rush and defensive front, that was going to be an issue all year, especially with Caleb on Chason out for the year. You knew you weren't going to be able to replicate that.
Right. This is not the same Alabama defense we've seen year in, year out. Not the same depth, not the same quality of athlete that we've seen. I'm not saying they're bad. They're very good defense. This LSU offense, to me, it's going to be on Joe Burrow's back. The ability to throw the football, but also the ability to run the ball effectively as well. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Brissett, they got to be able to establish the run. And you know, the big problem with the offense for the LSU all year long has been the receivers, the ability to catch the ball consistently. They've got to be able to catch the ball on Saturday. Break down this offense versus this Alabama defense.
Yeah, I think you're right as far as the Alabama defense. Look, if Arkansas can put up 30, I know they beat them handily, but still, if Arkansas put up 30, why can't LSU have a good day against them?
You would think it's going to be automatic, right? Come on.
You would think, but hey, you never know.
Right.
And so, but every one of these games is going to be on Joe Burrow's back. It's just what it is. It's why you go to LSU.
Do you like what you see out of him so far, though?
Yeah, I know he struggled against Mississippi State and was hard on it, but that game was you get in and get out and win that game.
And it was wet.
And bad conditions.
Right. It took away LSU's speed more than anything else, the soggy conditions.
Right.
Plus, that front was a tough front.
Oh, absolutely.
I think it's a tougher front than Alabama.
You knew that going in.
Right.
And you just get out of that game, move on, and get ready. And they were able to overcome a letdown, and that's good. Who cares? You won by what? What was it? 19-3?
3, yes.
Yeah, so fine. You won by 2 touchdowns and 2-point conversions. Way good enough. And so, but this is why you get Joe Burrow. I mean, you need him for this game and this game alone.
Yes.
And I think the offense has a ton of confidence in him. But I mean, you're right about the receivers. They've got to become some of these 5-star young players.
Right.
This is a time to shine. This is why you do it. Now, I feel like what's key is that their offensive line is better shape than it's been in the last few weeks.
I agree.
I almost feel like they've been playing coy and waiting. Like, all right, Garrett Brumfeld's going to be back for Alabama. I think that's probably been the plan all along. And it hasn't been this magical, oh my gosh, he practiced all of a sudden. Yes. I'm not buying that. I think they were waiting for this. Now he'll be ready, and they'll be about as full strength as we've seen so far, and that's all you can ask for.
Yeah, no doubt. To me, the special teams, clearly LSU is better than Alabama. When you look at the coverage teams, I mean, McMahon, I was one of the guys that wanted to, ride him out of town on a rail. I was driving the bus, right? Okay, but you look at from punting to, again, Cole Tracy with the place kicking to, again, the coverage units, LSU's got a pretty darn good set of special teams.
They hope and pray it comes down to special teams.
Oh, you better believe it.
They'll take Cole Tracy any day over Alabama's kicker, and it's pretty amazing. Like, okay, Greg McMahon, he got tired of him and stale here in New Orleans, and all of a sudden you go off to college, and it's not like he's a dummy.
No.
So obviously you're seeing that up at LSU, and it's really revamped and revitalized that whole thing, and you're not worrying about kickoff returns because they're out of the end zone.
Right.
And you're not worrying about, all right, can Rosenberg punt the ball? He's doing a great job. Cole Tracy, you're like, oh, you don't even watch the field goals anymore.
Right.
You're like, oh, automatic. 50-yard, automatic. I mean, he's been a revelation.
Returns are the only question mark right now. Giles has not really been the returner that everybody thought he was going to be.
Well, he just hasn't been the player that anybody thought he was going to be.
Agreed. But other than that, I think the special teams are solid. Going to the phone lines in just a moment. One more question on this. We always hear Saban's got 2 weeks to prepare for LSU. Oh, no. Well, Aranda's got 2 weeks to prepare for Alabama. And oh, wait a minute. Ensminger, who's been a pretty good play caller this year, has had 2 weeks to prepare for Alabama. Is it evened out now a little bit?
I think this year it's evened out a little bit because you're certainly seeing kind of a symmetry with Ogeron and Ensminger. They're doing what they want to do as opposed to Matt Canada. That was explosion. And so I feel like it has evened itself out. But you don't shake the stigma until you beat the Giant.
Right.
And they haven't done that since the greatest game in the century or whatever it was called. And they won that one 9-6 back in 2011. So you got to be able to shake that before we think, they've caught up to them at any point so far.
To the phone lines we go. Tom is in Metairie. Tom, welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports. Hey, Tom.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Doing great.
First, I want to say I like the new Larry Holder. I hope you take that the right way. New, honest, and real open approach about what's going on in sports.
I feel like I've always been open and honest. I'm just in a new, a new outlet.
He's always been blunt since I've
Well,
known
it was a compliment. I didn't mean.
No, I'm just playing. Go ahead.
Okay. Listen, I was listening to the Saban talk, and every year he plays that LSU's going to be a tough game. But I think this year LSU's kind of a mystery, and I really do think we have a chance of beating this team. I'm going to go on a limb and say we're going to beat Alabama, minus if we have a bunch of mistakes, of course. But I think Saban doesn't know what to expect, and when he played Les Miles, we knew exactly what to expect. Run up the middle, and it was an easy team to beat. So I just want to see what you guys think about that. And sorry, Larry, I didn't mean to insult you.
I'm just
Thank you,
playing
Tom.
with
We
you.
appreciate
No,
the
I completely agree. It's not the same run, whatever. It's
Right.
not the same team. The quarterback is more capable. I think Ensminger's doing what he can offensively with the pieces that he's had and called some smart game plans. And look, Dave Aranda, there's a reason why he's getting paid like that, because he's earned it. And so I totally agree with that.
Greg is in Houma. Greg, welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports. Hey, Greg.
Hey, guys. I got a question on Taysom Hill. I mean, Sean Payton uses him in all different positions, and I know he wants to be a quarterback someday in the NFL. By Sean Payton using him, does this hurt his stock or increase his stock for other teams to pick him up to, be a quarterback when his contract's up? Hang up and listen.
I don't think he's going to be a quarterback in the NFL. I just don't think he's that's not the way he is.
He's a Swiss Army knife.
I think that's the way you're going to have to use him. And I think Sean Payton's using him. And Taysom's like, good, I'm in the league, because I don't think he would have been the number 3 quarterback. He wouldn't have beaten out Tom Savage.
I remember him at BYU.
Yeah.
And again, I remember him being injured, and then they had it on NFL Network, or maybe it was on the last telecast. It was actually the Minnesota Saints game where they broke down every year he was injured. I'm surprised he's even in the NFL right now.
He's had 4 season-ending injuries. I wrote a story on him a few weeks ago, and it's pretty remarkable where he's come. He's just happy to be in the league.
Right. And look, he's been a weapon for the Saints. Give a lot of credit to the imagination of Sean Payton.
Sean Payton, Joe Lombardi was the one who suggested get him into special teams. Mike Westhoff using him. All of these things.
Renee is on the North Shore. Renee, welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports. Hey, Renee.
I wanted to ask Larry, if LSU wins the toss, does he think they ought to defer or take the ball?
Thank you, Renee.
Ooh, that's a good question, because you're wondering, the Devin White factor.
Right.
I think that's
right.
interesting.
Do you want to go on defense coming up the second?
I think LSU should take the ball and come on out and say, we want to push it to you. Mm-hmm. Now, it's what it is now. Everybody defers because you want to get that extra possession if you get it in a second. Yes. So I would understand that. But if you're in Tiger Stadium, you want to make a statement right away, push the ball down the field and be like, okay, we just scored. Right. Let's go. Let's see what you got.
And if you can stop Alabama, remember, they've scored every first possession in every game this season.
Might as well put them behind or try to put them behind. Even if it's 3-0, try to put them behind at some point.
Yes. You could say they've never been behind, right? Not been behind this season. Toby is in Gretna. Hey, Toby. Welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports.
Hey, Larry. Well, were the Saints trying to make any other trades before the deadline? And I thank you.
Thank you. Trades?
I'm sure they were on the phone. I don't know if any specific player was up there after they traded for Eli Apple. I think the Apple trade was as far as they wanted to go. But were they maybe looking at another corner? Possibly. Maybe Marcus Davenport getting hurt. Maybe they were sniffing around another defensive end.
Like a Dante Fowler?
Maybe so. But it's not like they have enough assets. Everybody wants draft picks.
Right, and they don't.
They have a second round.
Do you have a problem with them being all in this year? I do not.
No way.
Not at all.
No.
I don't have a problem with giving up the draft choices. I know maybe in a couple years from now, if they don't win something, it may be a problem, but I have no problem with it.
We could be complaining about this in 2 or 3 years
when
Drew is gone and everybody's gone.
But I understand why they've done it. I understand. I mean, again, when you have a quarterback like that that's going toward the end of the career, you've got to be all in. And it's a team that legitimately can win the Super Bowl.
And how many draft picks from this year's draft were actually even playing?
There you go.
2.
There you go. Last question for you. Ed Orgeron. Everybody knows I was a Jimbo Fisher guy. I didn't see this coming. I didn't think that I just didn't think he did enough to merit the job. But I'll tell you right now, he definitely is deserving of the job based on what he's done. Did you see it coming?
I did not see this turnaround. Let's see it. I picked LSU to lose against Miami. I picked them to lose against Auburn. I picked them to lose against Georgia. I picked them to win at Florida. And, of course, I'm wrong on all of these things.
So you're picking them to...
I'm picking them to lose. So maybe I'll have them. Maybe they'll win.
So they will beat Alabama.
No, but as far as Ed Orgeron, look, I think he's one of the best stories in college football this year. Someone who cares so much about the program and really, I mean, it's not like that Les Miles didn't care.
No, of course he did.
Les cares.
He's still living in Baton Rouge. He loves LSU.
Yes, there's no doubt about that. But I'm just saying that for Ed Orgeron, I think people can get behind him because he's literally one of your own. And I think that's something where he learned from his mistakes last year, and LSU was able to trust in him. Well, Joe Oliva has to trust him because they're tied to the hip.
No doubt.
So the fact that they were able to secure Dave Aranda, even though Ensminger was not a sexy hire at all, probably the most unsexy hire ever, that's worked. Going to get Greg McMahon, I think that was obviously a very good move. So he's been able to learn from his mistakes and going to the decision to go get Joe Burrow. I mean, that had to get done, and that was risking angering some kids that were there.
No doubt, or the team itself.
Right, and so the fact that all that happened, I think you could see he's certainly viable and capable of getting the job done. And like I said, I think he's one of the best stories this year of college football.
He wins this game, more than likely he locks up that 2019 class because they're battling Alabama for a lot of those kids. And again, that puts them in the mix for the Final Four. Larry, before we go, how can folks get involved with The Athletic?
Yeah, go to theathletic.com, or you can just go to theathletic.com/New Orleans. You can find it anywhere. They've got deals floating around to subscribe. And I just tell you, it's been a joy for me to work there for the last 2 months. I'm doing some of the best work I've ever done in my career. And so I would encourage you, look, we cover LSU, Saints, Pelicans, and of course we cover everything. You're not just paying for New Orleans, you're paying for the entire site. It's almost overwhelming the amount of incredible journalism that goes on at The Athletic.
It's absolutely amazing, and it's one of my go-to sites. You like Alabama on Saturday night?
Yeah, I do.
That's okay. We like that. We like that. And the Saints against the Rams.
I'm taking the Saints against the Rams.
That's Larry Holder. Larry, thanks for being with us.
You got it.
Thanks so much for tuning in. Remember, there's a rebroadcast of this program each and every Friday night right here on WLAE-TV at 10 p.m. Also on Pelican Sports Television every Friday night, 9 o'clock. Catch me on the radio, Sports 1280, 101.1 FM HD2, and the iHeartRadio app. That is noon to 2 weekdays. Also, you can check out the radio show and this TV show at ericasher.com. All the previous episodes of Inside New Orleans Sports at ericasher.com, and the podcast is at ericasher.com. You can also listen live to the radio show there as well. Also, want to thank our underwriters. Also, I want to give special thanks to Larry Holder. Also, the WLAE production staff, including Ron Yeager, Jim Dotson, also Alex Chacon, Neela Jones, and my director, William Hill. Thanks so much for watching. By the way, I'm picking the Tigers and the Saints this weekend. Let's hope we're talking about some great things next week. Absolutely, and I'm loving it today. Thanks to Larry Holder. Thanks for watching. I'm Eric Asher. We'll see you next week.